24/7 era of the Hardcore Championship is one of the most fondly remembered quirks of the Attitude Era. When Crash Holly won the belt in February 2000, he introduced a rule that it could be won anywhere at any time. This led to a huge number of title changes, many in humorous and silly circumstances. Gradually, however, the sheen wore off the idea, and in August 2002, the 24/7 rule was scrapped for good. The Hardcore title's lineage ended just 1 week later when it was absorbed by Rob Van Dam's IC Championship. But despite its imperfections, it's still looked back upon as a charming reminder of just how over-the-top wrestling could be in the early 2000s. This video is not about that title. On the May 20th, 2019 edition of Raw, Mick Foley took to the ring and introduced the new 24/7 Championship. Its unveiling was immediately met with a mixed response, as many had actually been hoping for the Hardcore title's comeback. Foley took a measure of the blame personally, tweeting things like, "I feel like I came up pretty short," and "I just wish I'd kicked it off with a better promo." In reality, his promo was totally fine, but the bad omens were already present. Anything that makes Mick Foley doubt his own mic skills surely cannot bring joy to this cruel, cruel world. Almost 1 year later, and the 24/7 Championship remains a real oddity. In the age of social media, you would think that WWE would have been able to take full advantage of its stipulation. And to be fair, some of the skits have been genuinely charming, as well as doing ludicrous numbers on the old YouTube. But there are also a great deal of issues with the 24/7 division: repetitiveness, inconsistency, and often a lack of real creative endeavor. Sometimes WWE seems to totally forget that the title even exists, but then again, it's not the only belt to suffer such a fate. Still, we feel it's appropriate to look back over the 24/7 title's lifespan so far, and what better way to do so than with a classic Cultaholic ranking. We just really love lists, alright? We've seen various figures hold the belt, from professional athletes to TV personalities, lowly jobbers to superstars right at the top of the card. Well, not the very top of the card, no, that wouldn't be accurate at all. So without any further ado, I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and this is every WWE 24/7 champion ranked from worst to best. Join us! Number 35, Mike Rome. Well, somebody had to come last. We just feel bad that it's Mike Rome. Lovely Mike Rome with his powerful yet non-threatening voice and handsome yet non-threatening face. Rome won the belt on a house show, just like all the best title changes, right Kevin? The ring announcer rolled up Sami Zayn at a WWE live event in Pittsburgh, but was then immediately rolled up by Sunil Singh while announcing his own victory. The indignity. WWE didn't even bother to put this title change out on Twitter or YouTube, meaning we had to search for ages to confirm its actual existence. We found it on Facebook in the end. Facebook. Words cannot express how mildly inconvenienced I feel, and for that, Mike Rome, you are bottom of the list. Number 34, Marshmellow. Here at Cultaholic, not one of our presenters is young enough to quite understand what Marshmellow is. We asked some of our younger staff members, and once they finished calling us boomers and doing Fortnite dances at us, they explained that he's a popular DJ. But not a classic radio DJ like Tony Blackburn or Tom Campbell. No, apparently Marshmellow is one of those cool party people DJs, and honestly, that fills us with disgust. Marshmellow, whose real name is Christopher, was hanging out backstage at SmackDown's 20th anniversary show when he got scared by Otis from Heavy Machinery. That's because he looks like a big marshmallow, and Otis thought he was an actual marshmallow. Shakespeare couldn't write this stuff. Christopher tripped and landed on 24/7 champion Carmela, accidentally pinning her for the title. It didn't look good, and it all took place in awkward silence because Christopher doesn't talk. He's too good for that, apparently. Thankfully, Carmela would get her revenge before the end of the show. Bloody Christopher. Number 33, Rob Stone. Rob Stone, the Robster, Big Robbie Stone. We all love Rob Stone, don't we, guys? I'm very British and very confused right now. For those as unaware as we are, Rob Stone is a commentator for Fox Sports, and also the biggest opportunist this side of Adam Copeland. Stone and his fellow sportscasters welcomed RTruth to the set of Fox College Football because Truth was hiding and wanted to protect the title. Sensible strategy there from RTruth, but he didn't bank on Rob Stone and his despicable ways. So when Truth tripped and fell on nothing and hit his head, Stone took full advantage to become 24/7 champion. Elias then sneaked onto the set and rolled him up straight away, but I have to admit, Stone fully committed to this segment. Good job, Rob Stone. Not brilliant or anything, but you certainly tried. Number 32, Kyle Busch. I had to Google who Kyle Busch is for this entry because it turns out he's a NASCAR driver, and NASCAR may as well stand for Not a Slight Chance Adam Relates. Seriously, NASCAR is a mystery to all of us on this side of the pond. It's possibly the most American thing we've ever seen, but apparently Kyle Busch is good at it, so good for him. In December 2019, Busch was in the front row of Monday Night Raw alongside Michael Waltrip, who I'm reliably informed is also a NASCAR driver. The pair helped RTruth hide from the chasing 24/7 mob before turning on him in a shocking heel move, the likes of which hadn't been seen since the days of Rob Stone. Waltrip revealed a referee shirt and Kyle blindsided Truth for the win. And fair play, he actually did a roll-up, unlike many celebrities on this list. I'm talking to you, Christopher! Truth won the belt back later that night, sneak attacking Busch while he was filming some sort of social media celebration on his phone. It was presumably for Tout. Tout's still cool, right? Number 31, Santa Claus. It's always heartwarming to see long-serving veterans of the business finally get rewarded for their years of hard work. Santa has cropped up on the WWE roster for years, whether celebrating with Bret Hart at the '92 Survivor Series or getting literally ran over by Alberto Del Rio. But last December, good old Saint Nick finally won his first ever championship in WWE. And to think that people were complaining about them taking 4 years to give Sami Zayn his first main roster title, Santa's been around for way longer. The sort of big red machine broke up a fight between RTruth and Akira Tozawa at Columbus Circle in New York, telling them to dap it up for Santa, which is maybe the best line in the lineage of the 24/7 title. He then blasted Tozawa with his loaded sack, not like that, and covered him to win the gold. A short while later, the two wrestlers caught up with the fleeing Santa, and Truth was able to get the belt back. Tozawa tried to carry on the fight, but referee John Cone said he was cold and was going home, thereby making himself the most relatable figure in the title's history. Number 30, Michael Giochi. If you've never heard of Michael Giochi, that's because he's WWE's senior account manager and not an on-screen figure in the slightest. It would be like if we gave the Cultaholic Heavyweight Championship to a barely seen, inconsequential figure in our own canon, like Puppet Jack or Fraser. Michael won the 24/7 during RTruth's speech at an employee meeting at WWE HQ. Truth ran into a wall and knocked himself out, which he sometimes does when they need to get the belt on a non-wrestler. It's actually very sporting of him. Michael pinned him for the title, but lost it later that day when he was about to sign a roster member's contract. He was required to do 5 push-ups and 5 sit-ups to prove that he had what it takes to become a WWE superstar. And if that's all it takes, then I'm almost halfway there, baby! Unfortunately for Big Mike, Truth took advantage of him mid-sit-up and won back the gold. Before we ranked all of the champions, a few of us were convinced that Giochio's reign would be bottom of the list, but to be honest, it was genuinely quite funny. Definitely better than that charlatan Christopher. Number 29, Ted DiBiase. Oh no, okay, so we've gotten the majority of the non-wrestlers out of the way, but now it's time to take a look at the Raw reunion. This was the night which saw the most changes in 24/7 title history, with 8 different champions holding the gold at one stage or another. The worst of these, and we feel bad saying this, was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Why? Well, he bought the belt with actual money. A bad decision, you have to say. Yes, it fits the gimmick and everything, but why would a Hall of Famer like Ted DiBiase care about the 24/7 championship? Then again, maybe he wanted to pad out his resume. 3 tag reigns with IRS can only get you so far, I suppose. Alright, DiBiase held more gold than that in WWE, but not much more. DiBiase lost the title to Drake Maverick, but like all good things in life, that took place off camera in the back of a limousine. Number 28, Gerald Brisco. Speaking of off-camera title changes, we didn't get to see Brisco's win either, as he turned on fellow stooge Pat Patterson off-camera. Given that Brisco seemed a little more sprightly during these segments, that was probably a decision made for Patterson's benefit, but it affects Brisco's reign regardless. That might seem unfair on poor Gerald, but hey, this is a cutthroat ranking video. Who am I kidding? You don't care. Not a single one of you. Brisco held the gold for a matter of seconds, celebrating in a manner that can honestly only be described as really very weird, before turning a corner straight into Kelly. She kneed him in the balls, that was apparently enough to render him totally unconscious, and his glorious reign was over. Number 27, Alundra Blair. Try not to get too excited because we're sticking with the Raw reunion for a little while longer. Let's talk about Alundra Blair. Otherwise known as Medusa, Blair is a huge figure in women's wrestling history. She held titles in WWF, AWA, and overseas in Japan, and even enjoyed a reign with the men's WCW Cruiserweight Championship. After wrestling, she became a world champion monster truck driver because of course she did. She's Alundra Blair. She can do what she wants. It's therefore a shame that WWE rarely focus on anything other than a single part of Alundra's wrestling career. The time she threw their women's title into a trash can on Nitro. They're totally over it though, honestly guys. It's just a big joke to them now, seriously. No, you stop bringing it up. So on the Raw reunion show, WWE couldn't resist proving that they didn't care about it all over again. Blair won the 24/7 title by choking out Candice Michelle before marching straight to commentary and preparing to throw it in the trash. By the way, look at the size of that belt compared to that bin. There's just no way it would have even fit. Is it too much to expect some realism from the 24/7 title division, please? Alundra was stopped by doing so by DiBiase, who bought the championship from her, as we already know. And the fact that she at least made some money out of the belt potentially makes her the smartest person in the history of the title. Number 26, Pat Patterson. Another veteran to win the 24/7 title at the Raw reunion show was Pat Patterson. We've already mentioned that, like Ted DiBiase, Patterson didn't even drop the gold on camera, instead being betrayed by Brisco behind the scenes. Not having your title loss occur in front of the audience is supreme Shawn Michaels behavior, and we have to applaud it. But the way Patterson won the gold was far more memorable, if only because it was so weird. Champion Drake Maverick was startled in the locker room by none other than the Boogeyman. Remember him? He's coming to get you. Allegedly. Maverick tripped in fright and Patterson was on hand to put the boots in for no discernible reason as far as we can tell. He didn't even seem to realize that Maverick was the champ until halfway through the beatdown. Regardless, he pinned Drake with one foot to become champion, and we shouldn't be too surprised. After all, this is a man who once made up an entire tournament to become the first ever IC title holder, so he's not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. Number 25, Candice Michelle. There's not much to discuss when it comes to Candice Michelle's reign. It wasn't the most memorable title change on the Raw reunion show, but crucially, it wasn't the worst either. And that makes it one of the better ones, because that show was just... oh god, it wasn't pretty. Anyway, Candice won the title after a fairly vicious-looking attack on Kelly, so a good effort there. It also featured a little bit of deception as well. Clearly Candice has been studying her Rob Stone tapes. She enlisted the help of Melina, who revealed that she was now an officially licensed referee and countered the pinfall on a startled Kelly. Candice then did her signature dance to Total Silence, which was very awkward, and quite honestly, costs her a couple of places on this list. We're really splitting hairs here. It's a difficult ranking. We hope you understand. Number 24, Kelly. Speaking of Kelly, here she is. She will forever go down in history as the first woman to hold the 24/7 title, which sounds like an important milestone, but we're really not sure. Still, it's probably an achievement that should stand for something, especially due to the manner of Kelly's title win. Yes, she went proper old school for this one, kicking a defenseless old man in the balls. Absolutely outstanding work, Kelly. Of course, the manner of double case title loss is far more disappointing. The shocking reveal of Melina as a referee shouldn't have been all that shocking at all, because if Kelly had kept up to date with the complete history of WCPW, she'd have known that Melina had been a referee for years by this point. Number 23, Rob Gronkowski. Well, outside of the wrestling world, Rob Gronkowski is a 3-time Super Bowl champion and arguably the greatest tight end in NFL history. In WWE, he's Mojo Rawley's best friend, the human embodiment of Monster Energy, and the host of the most watched empty arena show in history. He also dances sometimes. But crucially, at the time of recording, he's also the current 24/7 champion. Gronk was betrayed by Mojo at WrestleMania 36, who stole a pinfall over RTruth and ran away with the title. At this stage, we have to mention that weird elbow Gronk threw at Truth. The man is a modern-day super athlete, but what on earth was that? On night 2 of Mania, Gronk got his revenge, trust falling onto Rawley and a pack of Performance Center trainees like a bigger, stupider Kofi Kingston. He pins Mojo, won the title, and God help us, Rob Gronkowski is our reigning champion. Number 22, Erick Cantor. Prepare yourselves because we're about to talk about possibly the greatest heel in the history of the 24/7 title. Cantor had recently left the New York Knicks and, via a short stint in Portland, was now a Boston Celtics player. In September 2019, he turned up at Madison Square Garden prior to an episode of Raw and didn't shy away from riling up his old fans in the slightest. With Cantor getting heat in the ring by simply being there, 24/7 champion RTruth came out to welcome his friend to WWE. But it didn't seem that strong when the near 7-footer pie-faced Truth to win the title. With timing even a prime Randall Keith would be proud of, Cantor then removed his jacket to reveal a bright green Celtics jersey. Genius heel work from the big man. He was then immediately rolled up by Truth, but the unveiling of the jersey must be celebrated as a textbook example of classic heel work. Cantor's dedication to proper heeldom puts him a cut above all other celebrity winners on this list, and even a few actual wrestlers as well. Also, he earns bonus points for having the 24/7 title listed alongside his actual basketballing achievements on Wikipedia, which is quite sad now we come to think of it. Number 21, Bo Dallas. We'll talk about him properly later on, but Drake Maverick really lacks composure as 24/7 champion. Unlike his carefree or strategic peers, Maverick can more accurately be described as a frantic title holder. That's where Bo Dallas comes in. Bo won the title when Maverick and his wife were attempting to escape a SmackDown show through the boiler room. It's a questionable strategy at best. Do you see what we mean now about the frantic thing? For a few action-packed seconds, the pair progressed through the room like a Crash Bandicoot chase level, avoiding a flying Kalisto in the process. Maverick stopped to fight off Curtis Axel, only for Bo to swoop in with a perfectly timed roll-up for the win. What this means is that Bo Dallas is that tricky part of a platformer you just can't get past. Later on in the night, Dallas was cornered in the ring, with his B-Team bro acting as a loyal human shield. After Axel fought off several opponents, Maverick sneaked a roll-up of his own to regain the title, before being rolled up himself by RTruth, who was disguised as a lampshade. Naturally. Number 20, The Revival. Dash and Dawson's co-title win came about when the usual 24/7 chase interrupted a tag match between the Revival and the Lucha House Party. The Luchadors decided to start diving onto everyone because flips are fun, I guess, while the Revival showed greater intellect by instead isolating the champion RTruth. A quick heart attack later, because they were in Canada of course, and the pair covered Truth for the simultaneous victory. Kalisto then laid out Wilder with his finisher, but Dawson pulled the former US champion out of the ring at the count of 2. Yes, former US champion, I know, he held it 2 bloody times. With the coast clear, Carmela helped Truth make the cover on Dash, and the Revival's reign was over. We have absolutely no issue with the ruling here, by the way. Dash and Dawson both covered Truth at the same time, thereby giving them an advantage, so it's only fair that just one of them needed to be pinned for the title to change hands, just in case you were worried anything was going to tarnish the sacred integrity of the 24/7 title. Number 19, Mayor Glen Jacobs. One area we feel the 24/7 division has really let us down on is planning. Few superstars have been patient enough to whip up a fully fleshed out plan, beyond waiting for the champion to get distracted or knock themselves out in slapstick fashion. Okay, so RTruth might be an exception, with his endless supply of Bugs Bunny disguises, but most champions simply wait for the belt to fall into their lap. Well, strap yourselves in, because we're now going to look at the second most elaborate plan in the history of the title's lineage so far. The other one's right around the corner, don't worry. Mayor Glen Jacobs of Knox County, Tennessee, didn't use his size or strength to defeat RTruth for the title. No, that would have been far too easy. Instead, he took Truth on an entire day-long tour of the city of Knoxville. He then introduced him to a local police officer who, surprise, was actually a referee, and Truth fled straight into a football goalpost. The Big Red Mayor then pinned him, took a limo to Monday Night Raw, and was rolled up by Truth on arrival. All that for one measly reign. Poor guy. Number 18, Akira Tozawa. Here it is, the single most elaborate plan in the 24/7 title history. Hats off to you, Tozawa, you evil genius. Tozawa's plan was to anonymously write to RTruth, luring him to the Rockefeller Center in New York City, apparently to light the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Christmas tree. Never mind that the tree was already lit and had been for quite some time. And never mind it's actually called the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree and has no known link to the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. This is RTruth we're dealing with here, and we have to commend Tozawa for understanding the way his target's mind works. When Truth arrived, a helpful passerby pointed out that the invitation was written entirely in Japanese. With Truth confused by, well, just about everything at this stage, Tozawa raced up from behind and rolled him up to win the title. A worthy champion, we're sure you agree, but he did lose it to Santa Claus about an hour later, so we shouldn't go overboard with praise really. Also, and this is just our opinion, but the implication that Truth can perfectly read Japanese and that Tozawa assumed this to be the case is probably the best joke to come out of the 24/7 division. Number 17, Tamina. Fair play to Tamina, winning and losing the 24/7 title on an actual pay-per-view. That, my friends, is showing real commitment to elevating the belt's image, unlike some people, Christopher. Tamina won the title backstage at Hell in a Cell, rolling up Carmela and fighting off Tyler Breeze, while the Street Profits looked on and reacted. This was that weird period where they just moved from NXT to Raw, but Raw hadn't yet realized they were actual wrestlers, so they just sort of hung around and hyped the show, like an extra pair of Michael Coles. Later in the night, RTruth chased Tamina along the row of international announce tables, and the champion only attempted to get bloody Funaki to help her. Naturally, the internet rejoiced. It's Funaki. You can't not love him. Unfortunately for Tamina, she turned straight into a super kick from Carmela, and Truth made the cover to end her reign. Honestly, the fact that Funaki was involved in a 24/7 title skit and didn't win the belt continues to amaze me. Number 16, Robert Roode. It's time to pay our respects to the second ever 24/7 champion and the first to actually win the belt via pinfall or submission. After Mick Foley's mad opening scramble, which we admit sounds a bit like a WrestleMania weekend indie show, Roode rolled up Titus ONeil on the ramp to become champion, and the belt went flying. It seems as though the strap fell off the side of the ramp amongst all the chaos, which forced Roode to run away without even lifting his newly won title. Quite an inglorious start to his reign, wouldn't you agree? Banter. Roode's time with the belt didn't last long, as he made the crucial mistake of trusting RTruth. And while this was before Truth became the Brock Lesnar of the 24/7 division, you still have to question Roode's decision making here. The champ hid in the back of Truth's car to avoid the chasing pack before being immediately betrayed and robbed of the championship. And despite never giving in till he's victorious, we are yet to see Roode add to his solitary reign. Number 15, Heath Slater. On June 24th, 2019, the WWE Universe bore witness to the great 24/7 brawl of Everett, Washington. A seemingly innocuous Raw show became the site of the best actual wrestling the 24/7 division has seen so far since its inception. And yes, we know it's not exactly a high bar, but it should still stand for something. That explains Heath Slater's relatively high ranking here. Yes, he only held the belt once, and only for a matter of seconds, but the great 24/7 brawl of Everett, Washington makes heroes out of ordinary men. The brawl began when Truth ran away from the chasing pack and decided to hide in the ring. Not an empty ring either, as this was just before a match between Slater and my boy Mojo Rawley. A scuffle broke out, allowing Heath to blindside Truth with a devastating neck breaker for the three. The Great Brawl of Everett got more action-packed from here, I promise. Unfortunately for Slater, he was unable to escape the arena and found himself chased back into the ring, where Truth hit him with the What's Up to win back the gold. However, number 14, Cedric Alexander. That's right, Cedric Alexander was in the Great Brawl of Everett too. He wisely stayed away for most of it before arriving late like Frank Lampard in his prime, or so I'm told. Cedric nailed the lumbar check on Truth and won the gold, before evading a charging Mojo on the outside. Your time will come, Mojo. Your time will come. Unfortunately for Cedric, he fell victim to EC3's 1%er, taking a sick bump on the belt itself. Despite losing the championship, Alexander really proved his worth to the 24/7 title scene here. Truly the workhorse of the division, for whatever that's worth. Number 13, Maria Kanellis. The 24/7 title has inspired a number of interesting tactics among those in pursuit of glory. From harebrained schemes to cunning disguises to running around a lot and sometimes falling over, we've seen all manner of approaches. But maybe none have been as unique as that of Maria Kanellis. She secured a 6-day 24/7 title reign via the interesting strategy of being pregnant. Having forced severely mistreated husband Mike to surrender the belt backstage on an episode of Raw, Maria strutted around confident in the knowledge that nobody could touch her. Admittedly, this didn't result in the most action-packed of title reigns, but we appreciate good strategy here at Cultaholic.com. Unfortunately for Maria, despite the impressive length of her reign, it ended in humiliating fashion, which we'll discuss very shortly. But first, number 12, Titus ONeil. Buddy Rogers, Orville Brown, Antonio Inoki. The greatest and most prestigious title in World Wrestling all began somewhere, and all began with an inaugural champion. The 24/7 championship is no different, except it's only been round since last year, and it's rubbish. On May the 20th last year, Mick Foley ended his speech by leaving the title in the ring and announcing that the first person to grab it would become the first ever 24/7 champion. This prompted a mad scramble, with various superstars desperate to boost their championships and accomplishments section on Wikipedia. But Foley was sort of wrong in a way, because the first person to physically touch the title was actually Carl Anderson, who has never been 24/7 champion at the time of recording. Hashtag justice for Carl, and so on. Anderson was followed milliseconds later by tag partner Luke Gallows, and the pair's tug of war was cut off by others joining the fray. Eventually, things boiled down to Drake Maverick and Titus ONeil, with the larger man hoisting poor Drake out of the ring before grabbing the title to make history. And boy, was he excited. So excited, in fact, that he almost took out a section of the front row during his celebration. We really recommend that you watch that part back, it's genuinely hilarious. Number 11, Mike Kanellis. Poor Mike Kanellis. What on earth was that whole storyline about? What was the endgame? What happened? Anyway, we've ranked Mike above his wife here because even though she enjoyed a longer reign, we feel he demonstrated a greater variety of skills in pursuit of 24/7 glory. He's also the first multiple-time champion we've encountered on this video so far, clocking in at a monumental 2 reigns. There was tenacity, which he showed when winning the title from RTruth shortly after a mosh pit mixed tag team match, don't ask. Several superstars went to make the pin, but it was brave Mike who emerged from the bottom of the pile as 24/7 champion. And then, yes, he did lay down for Maria backstage, but at some point during her 6-day reign, Mike clearly had a change of heart. He then demonstrated his cunning, another key ingredient of 24/7 title success, remember, pinning her during her OBGYN appointment in the middle of a hug. I'll just repeat that so you know you didn't imagine it. He pinned her during an OBGYN appointment in the middle of a hug. And then Mike met the same fate as many before him, as he was rolled up by a disguised RTruth in the waiting room. Truth was dressed as a pregnant woman and threw a fake baby at Mike to disorientate him. All of this actually happened. Number 10, EC3. Back to the great brawl of Everett now to talk about 4-time champion EC3. Save some reigns for everyone else, Ethan. We already mentioned that EC3 blasted Cedric Alexander with a hellacious 1%er to take the title, but he lost it seconds later. As he held the belt aloft on the ramp, Carmela was able to snatch it away, distracting EC3 long enough for him to fall victim to that most devastating of maneuvers. A rarely seen burning hammer from a vengeful RTruth, driving EC3's neck and skull into the entrance ramp and it was just a roll-up. EC3's other reigns came a few months later, as the belt was exchanged between him and RTruth 3 times on 3 consecutive house shows. One in the Philippines, one in China, and one in Hawaii. Apparently, Chad Gable counted the fall for EC3's losses in China and Hawaii, but not the one in the Philippines. We don't know why, and we probably never will. Evolution is a mystery. Number 9, Sunil Singh. Another 4-time champ now, this time one of those dastardly Singh brothers. They're rarely seen apart, but for clarity, Sunil is the one who didn't fall off the side of the Punjabi prison. Remember that? Great times. Sunil first won the title backstage on an episode of Raw with a sizable assist from his brother, who distracted RTruth with a Bollywood song. One of the many lessons we've learned from this video is that despite often holding a title that requires constant alertness, Truth gets distracted very easily. Sunil dropped the gold back to Truth on the Crown Jewel kickoff show after both men had been eliminated from a pre-show battle royal. Humberto Carrillo won the battle royal, by the way, if you care. You don't, we know. But where did those extra reigns come from? Well, you'll be glad to know it was via a fairly convoluted series of house show title changes. That's what we all love about wrestling, right guys? There were several handicap matches between the Singhs and RTruth, taking place on a tour of New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. Samir would beat Truth for the title before Sunil would turn on his brother and win it himself, and then Truth would win it back in the end. They did this 3 times, and Samir never wised up to his brother's trickery. Tragic, really. Number 8, Samir Singh, aka the one who did fall off the Punjabi prison. Godspeed, you brave cruiserweight. Samir first won the title backstage at Crown Jewel after RTruth ran into a door. Just RTruth doing RTruth things. Samir lost the gold a couple of weeks later on Raw after Truth disguised himself as a doctor in the medical room. Stealing a page from Steve Austin's playbook there, Ron. We like it. We like it a lot. Samir then extended his total number of reigns to 5 thanks to the house show shenanigans we mentioned just before. But you may notice that he ended up with 1 more reign than his brother. How come? Well, it turns out that Sunil didn't betray his brother at one of the live events, allowing him to beat RTruth and then simply lose the title straight back to him. We're not really sure why this happened, and if you were there, we'd love to hear what went down, but for now, we're forced to assume that Sunil was struck by brotherly love and goodwill in the beautiful city of Baltimore. And that has cost Sunil Singh a place on this list. Congratulations, Samir. You are the most successful 24/7 champion in your immediate family. Number 7, Jinder Mahal. Now, from the underlings to the man himself, former WWE champion and 24/7 title pioneer, Jinder Mahal. Both of those things are equally important, we're sure you'll agree. Jinder has only held the belt twice, and never for longer than a few hours, but his contributions to the art form that is the 24/7 division simply cannot be ignored. He is an early innovator, perhaps slightly underappreciated in his time, but a true great in hindsight, like Jerry Lynn. Jinder Mahal is exactly the same as Jerry Lynn. Jinder was the first superstar to win the title outside of the confines of a WWE arena, and that includes the parking lot, Ronald. Mahal rolled up Truth on a golf course, which is handily listed online as an unidentified golf course, only to lose it straight back. He pinned Truth again on the tarmac at Frankfurt Airport during a stopover on the way to Saudi Arabia. Again, Jinder's innovation went almost completely unrewarded as he was pinned while later enjoying a mid-flight snooze. But still, we have to applaud Jinder, the Mr. Worldwide of the 24/7 division, for his contributions towards its success. He could have been up there with the greats of this title if only he'd held on to it for a little longer. Number 6, Carmela. Every superhero needs a sidekick, even the John Cena of the 24/7 division, which makes Carmela B squared, I suppose. Yes, the fabulous one has been instrumental in a large portion of RTruth's title reigns, chasing, distracting, and diverting his many rivals. But in September of 2019, Carmela wanted a taste of the gold for herself. She pinned Truth on an episode of Raw, seconds after cutting an emotional promo about the demands of the 24/7 division. Truth didn't seem to mind her betrayal, and even helped her flee from a new group of challengers from the women's division. A nice role reversal. After an impressive 11-day reign, who would Carmela end up losing the title to? A fierce competitor in need of a win like Sarah Logan? A former NXT great like Kairi Sane? Or the novelty helmeted DJ and celebrity annoyance Marshmellow, aka Christopher? We already know the answer. Thankfully, Carmela was able to win the title back later that same night, as she and Truth ambushed Marshmellow while disguised as Marshmellow. It made no sense, but hey, at least it worked. Number 5, Elias. Elias was perhaps the first real villain of the 24/7 title picture. Yes, wackier heels such as Robert Roode and Jinder Mahal had already held the gold, but Elias was the first corporate champion. Well, he was in Shane McMahon's loose stable of cronies at the time, which is close enough. Elias first won the title on Shane McMahon Appreciation Night, with the help of both Shane himself and Drew McIntyre. God, remember when Drew was in that group? It's probably the worst stable he's ever been in. And no, I will not have a bad word said about the three-man band. Shane then suspended the 24/7 rule until later on in the night, which would go on to be a really confusing and irritating theme. Why is the 24/7 rule always suspended when the 24/7 champion is wrestling? It's 24/7! The 24/7 rule was reinstated after Elias was pinned by Roman Reigns towards the end of the show, and then immediately pinned by RTruth as well to lose the gold. He'd win it back the following week in a lumberjack match, only for Truth to outfox him again, this time under the ring. Elias wasn't champion again until a couple of months later, which gives hope to many of the names on this list. You can win that title again, Mike Rome. We believe in you. Elias whacked Truth with a guitar backstage, the old Jeff Jarrett, before going into hiding in his recording studio. That is a good strategy and also a nice display of social distancing, but it only worked for 11 days. Elias was then defeated by Truth while giving a performance at Fox Sports Founders Day, only for the belt to end up in the hands of that evil Rob Stone. Mercifully, Elias rolled up Stone for his fourth reign, fell victim to a Kevin Owens stunner the following week, and found himself pinned by Drake Maverick. What a roller coaster, but in the brave words of Ronan Keating, just gotta ride it. Number 4, Riddick Moss. Riddick Moss could potentially be the greatest politician in 24/7 history, as he used the division to propel himself into a prominent slot on Monday Night Raw. He was introduced as Mojo Rawley's protection, helping keep the Hype One's reign intact. It was a partnership that worked, at first. Yes, it was only a matter of time until Moss turned on Mojo, but after only 2 weeks. That was quite shocking. Then again, as we've learned, the 24/7 division moves fast. Moss betrayed Mojo after the pair lost a tag team bout to the Street Profits. And the worst part, Mojo was just checking he was okay after the match. Despicable. Moss's time with the belt remains the longest single reign by a mile, ending at a gargantuan 40 days. That would have even been a long IC title reign at certain stages of the Attitude Era. In a bizarre way, Moss may have done the most for the title's prestige out of anyone. Yes, it wasn't a popular run. He utterly dominated a pair of internet darlings in Cedric and Ricochet like a human manifestation of Vince McMahon's desire to bury our favourites, but he did get the title on TV, and it was held by a strong champion. And shortly before we recorded this video, in a confusing time of self-isolation and social distancing, it seemed as though Moss's reign was destined to stretch on indefinitely. Then, of course, RTruth happened. Truth got the drop on Moss while he was out jogging, emerging from the back of a referee-driven car to secure his 35th title reign. Number 3, Mojo Rawley. All hail Mojo Rawley, my favourite wrestler and close personal friend. You will be ecstatic to know that Mojo is a 7-time 24/7 champion with a combined total of 25 days as title holder. His first win came on New Year's Eve when he pinned RTruth in Times Square during the celebrations. He was helped, shockingly, by a despicable heel turn from the event's co-host, Maria Menounos. She was secretly a referee all along, who'd have thought it? The answer is everybody who has a passing familiarity with the 24/7 division. Mojo then displayed a stunning lack of people skills as he insulted Elias's musical ability while asking him for help to escape. Predictably, one guitar shot later, and Mojo was powerless to stop Truth covering him and winning the title back. But my main man Mojo didn't give up and won the belt for a second time on Raw, ambushing Truth after an attack from Brock Lesnar. Apparently, Lesnar wasn't interested in pinning Truth for the title, but you didn't need to ask Mojo twice. Imagine for a second, though, Brock Lesnar as 24/7 champion. People would just be bouncing off him on an hourly basis. Mojo bolstered his number of reigns after playing hot potato with Truth at house shows in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Kansas. But things changed on a January edition of Raw. There, Mojo declared that the 24/7 title was no longer the Run and Go Hide Championship, introducing his protection in the form of Riddick Moss. Who, most of the crowd said? Riddick Moss, WWE said. Moss was effective for a couple of weeks, allowing Mojo to win the title straight back from Truth when he lost it on one occasion, but their alliance didn't last. Mojo's final reign so far came at WrestleMania 36, where RTruth decided to safeguard his title by heading to the bloody Performance Center, despite not being on the card. Mojo betrayed best friend Rob Gronkowski to seize the belt from Truth, but later fell victim to the great balcony dive of 2020. Still, against all odds, Mojo somehow remains one of the most effective members of the 24/7 division, and I couldn't be prouder of him. Number 2, Drake Maverick. There's always something charming in wrestling about a champion who really cares. When Cody Rhodes brought back the classic white Intercontinental title design, it made us take him seriously as champion. He wanted to restore prestige to the belt, and we wanted it too. When Shawn Michaels cradled the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 12, it wasn't just a cliche to say that the boyhood dream had come true. You got a sense that the title did actually mean the world to HBK. Until recently, the 24/7 division had an equivalent, and and that man was Drake Maverick. Nobody has poured their heart and soul into pursuing the 24/7 title like the diminutive darling of the UK scene. Maverick fought, schemed, begged, and pleaded to try and wrench the title from RTruth's grasp, and when he finally did, the worst happened. He lost it back to Truth at his own wedding. So he won it again, this time backstage on Raw, only to again lose it in humiliating fashion, this time in a hotel room where Drake was about to consummate his marriage. So he won it again, only to lose it to Patterson of all people, after being scared by the boogeyman. So he won it again, ambushing the $1 Million Man in his limousine, only for Truth to catch him again towards the end of the Raw reunion, like the inevitable spectre of death. And with that, Maverick's time with the title was essentially over, save for a quick game of hot potato with Bo Dallas a month later. But even that ended with Truth again getting one over on the poor little guy. And through all of this heartbreak and frustration, Maverick has only held the title for a combined total of 22 days. That is less than Mojo Rawley, which I'm told will sound like a serious miscarriage of justice to many of you. I wouldn't say so personally, but I will tolerate your point of view. Number 1, RTruth. You might agree when we say that Drake Maverick's pursuit of 24/7 gold has given us some of the best moments in the title's history. And that made him a potential contender for number 1, given that he's been around for all of the best bits. But RTruth is something different altogether. He's been around for most of those best bits, and many of the worst bits too, and quite a lot of the boring bits in the middle. You see what we're getting at here. Quite simply, the 24/7 title is RTruth, and over the course of its history, it's become apparent that everyone else is just caught in his unstoppable orbit. It's hard to single out Truth's most memorable moments with the title because we've mentioned pretty much all of them in this video already. That's how all-encompassing he's been since the day it was introduced. He is the tireless glue holding everything together, but also wins the belt all the bloody time. He's the Daniel Bryan and John Cena of the division, all in one go. At the time of recording, RTruth has held the belt 35 times for 152 days, completely dwarfing everybody else on this list. Whether you love him or hate him, there is no denying that RTruth is the greatest 24/7 champion in its entire history so far.